Hi there everybody, Roarkallos here. Last week in week 13 of the MCS, I completely scrubbed out. I went X2 drop as early as round 3. It was not fun. That said, I still wanted to bring out a replay analysis for you. I wanted to show off my early loss, something I could have done differently, as well as showcase some of my teammates' games because my teammate did manage to top last week. Congratulations to Jeff for finally getting his invite. We played the exact same list, and I wanted to show off the key new addition that we've made, which is Danger Mothman. Danger Mothman is our replacement for instant fusion, and replay number 2 in this video will really show you the power of Mothman as an extender in Tearlaments. So let's get started with the replay analysis, shall we? So as I mentioned, I didn't do so well in last week's MCS, and this is my round 2 game, and it was my first loss. I was up against Yanz. Yanz opened 2 copies of Scream, an Agido, Siren, and DD Crow. I opened of Maxi, Ash Blossom, Agido, Terraforming, and Crossout. I honestly felt really confident with this hand. As long as Yanz doesn't have an answer to Maxi, I felt like my Crossout could trade with a trap card, and Maxi should get me enough advantage, as well as stunt his play enough to where Terraforming could search for something playable and I could play from there. But let's see what happens. So Yanz decides to just fully commit and play into the Maxi. I can respect that. They mill both Sulliek and Scream, which is excellent, and are able to send the tier name off Rhinoheart. They choose to fuse with the name that they searched earlier to keep the 2 level 4s on board in an attempt to make Dweller. Again, I can respect it. And by this point, I was really hoping I could have drawn into an Imperm. Unfortunately, I did not, but the Ash Blossom will have to do. I choose to Ash Blossom Kit Kalos here because I already know that Yanz has access to Scream and Sulliek, and they're going to put me under Dweller. Frankly, I can probably play through Scream and Sulliek and Dweller, but I can't play through all that and Crime as well. So I Ashed here in order to stop Yanz from searching the counter trap. Turn passes over to me, and as you can see, the interruptions on the board are clear. Yanz also has 1 of each shuffler in the graveyard. This is fairly strong. Despite the fact that I have 7 cards available to me right now, it's going to be very difficult to chew through this board. Having an Imperm at any moment here would have been fantastic for that Dweller. So because I don't really have a way to special summon a monster onto the field, I'm going to have to fire off Planet and use it to search Siren. I choose to normal Rhino straight off the bat because I know that it's going to trigger Yanz's Scream, and then I'll be able to trigger my own Kelbeck, which will remove the Kit Kalos from the field, and that should turn off the Sulliek, or at least force Yanz to use it, to which I will then respond with Crossout. The Scream mills for Yanz a very important card, Snow. This Snow really was a thorn in my side. So because my Dweller gets booked, it does mean that I'm going to have to play this a little bit awkwardly, but fortunately Talents lets me play through the Snow Book of Moon just fine. The only thing is though, I am going to have to put out another monster onto the field, and the only way I'm going to be able to do that is by triggering my Siren. What I'm hoping for is that I can at least hit a Shuffler here. We're both under Dweller, but at the very least, if I just hit like 1 Keldo or 1 Mudora, then next turn, after I've wiped the field, we can at the very least trade my Shuffler for all of Yanz's Shufflers, and then it becomes a top decking war, as well as removing cards that can be used for Snow activations. I unfortunately do not hit any shufflers, and I just hit a whole bunch of cards that essentially do nothing underneath Dweller. Most unfortunately, I mill both Hoffnesses, which means they cannot be drawn anymore and they cannot be milled later on. Yanz top decks talents and passes. I top deck a Rhino Heart here, and my top deck here is the entire reason why I want to showcase this replay. Now, aside from the 2 cards in Yanz's hand, which are both unknowns, the only interruptions that I'm dealing with are, I say only, are Snow and 2 Shufflers. But I do have a Crime and I do have a Sulliek on the field. If I just normal summon Rhino Heart right now, it's going to get interrupted. The name will get shuffled back and it won't convert to a fusion, but it does do 2 things. For starters, it puts Yanz on a 2-turn clock, as these 2 monsters will do 4,500 points of damage. So it forces Yanz to use the Snow to try to buy additional turns. And since there are so few cards in Yanz's graveyard, that does mean that he's going to have to banish the shufflers that are already in there. Moreover, if I at least have a Rhino Heart on my field, this Sulliek is live. If Yanz misplays and draws a playable normal summon and just drops it right off the bat, I can at the very least interrupt that. That said, it's a much more prudent decision to just hold the Rhino Heart in hand. And the reason for that is because of Crime. If next turn I top deck a monster, I can normal summon Rhino Heart, attempt to get my fusion, and once Yanz attempts to interrupt it, I can immediately Crime it, end the chain link, get my fusion, and proceed to play from there. That said, I was not as patient as I should have been, and frankly, it might have not mattered depending on Yanz's top deck. But I choose to normal summon the Rhino anyway to trade with one of the shufflers that's on field. It ends up being that one of the cards in hand was DD Crow, so that's what I trade with. But any level 4 does it here for Yanz, and top decking a Mudora was excellent. My board gets wiped, but I am able to replenish my hand thanks to the Sulliek and the Crime. But even with my 3 cards in hand, I'm still dealing with a Mudora and a Keldo, and that's just so much to have to play through. Moreover, this is an Imperm, which Imperm kind of just loses to the Sue's board wipe. I'm able to at the very least clean out the rest of Yanz's graveyard. The Siren being on board does mean that Yanz will be forced to go into battle phase before making a play, but at this point there's a lot of top decks that do it for Yanz and not a lot that do it for me. And so that was my first of 2 back-to-back losses, which caused me to drop from the tournament right away at round 3. It was very unfortunate. 2 of the replays that I'll be showcasing today are actually from my teammates' run through the MCS. As I mentioned already, I scrubbed out, but he kept going. So this is a game between my teammate Jeff and UsabiEria. So we're at the end of turn 3. Eria went first, so this is the end of their turn. They have a Roarkallos, which is right now negated by Sulliek, a Chaos Ruler, 2 Sullieks, Elf, and in the graveyard is 1 Shuffler, a Merly Reborn, and a Diviner Reborn for the Elf. Jeff only has a face-up Sulliek, a Sulliek in hand, and in his graveyard is nothing. No interruptions, no tier names, a lone Mudora that blocked an attack this turn. Question for the audience. What top deck do you think gets Jeff out of this situation? There aren't that many. Let's find out.
Let them see the wrath of the monarch!
Mothman. Now, Mothman is a tech that Jeff and I have been discussing as a substitute for the now banned Instant Fusion. And you might be thinking to yourself, how is Mothman a substitute for Instant Fusion? It's certainly not as powerful as Instant Fusion, but its ability to extend and unbrick hands is something that isn't quite rivaled by other cards. Moreover, because it's an extender from the hand, it doesn't lose to Dweller in the same way that other extenders do, like Foolish Burial Goods, Foolish Burial, or Tearlaments Grief. Let's see what happens. So the Mothman gets sniped, but then with its graveyard effect, Jeff is able to draw into a Hofness, pitch the Sulliek that was in his hand, and then use that Sulliek to search a Siren. And now all of a sudden, we have something playable. Moreover, it's something playable that does not immediately lose to the Shuffler that is in Usabi's graveyard. Jeff here will activate Hofness and Agito. I want you to pay special attention to this Hofness as, spoiler alert, it comes back to bite him. The first fusion attempt is met with a Shuffler, but now this was the reason why Jeff decided to activate Agito. On a new chain, Usabi will mill Hellbeck and one of each tier name, and he will activate all of them. Jeff hit only a Merly and a Rhinoheart and cannot activate Rhinoheart, so he will activate only Merly. This will convert into a Stapelia and a new Roarkallos for Usabi. Jeff also fortunately mills a Snow for additional extension. The Kaleidoheart is negated by Stapelia, and Usabi does mill a Mudora. This, along with combination with Roarkallos, forces Jeff to banish almost his entire graveyard. Unfortunately, in this particular case, Jeff forgot that he had used Hofness way back at the beginning of the turn, and the correct send-off Kaleidoheart here was Siren in order to continue playing and get another fusion. This could have converted to now a Kit Kalos, which could have searched Scream, which could have began to out the board. But as it stands right now, there aren't that many plays left. So even after that blunder, the turn still ends with Jeff having a Zeus and a Snow engraved. Unfortunately, it's around this time where time will be called and Usabi is up in life, so the duel will end here. And I have one more replay from my teammate Jeff that I want to showcase. I tend to show off a lot of games where we go second, but here I want to focus on, how we play the game when we actually do win the coin toss. because occasionally Team Roarkallos does win the coin toss, okay? It doesn't happen often, but sometimes it does happen. So here, this is Jeff's round 8 game versus -1. Negative has opened Sulliek, Rhino, Fallen of Albaz, Merly, and DD Crow. And Jeff has opened Double Keldo, Kelbeck, Terraforming, and Triple Tactics Talents. Negative's hand is really bad because he only has one form of interaction, and it's a very low impact one, DD Crow. Next to DD Crow are 3 normal summons. So this is effectively a 3-card hand. The only cards that are really playable are the Sulliek, 1 normal summon, and a DD Crow. Looking at Jeff's hands, this is always going to begin with a Planet searching for Rhino. Negative immediately DD Crows the first fusion attempt. This is a play I can respect. I sometimes try not to interact with the first fusion attempt, but when your hand is very weak, sometimes you just have to Hail Mary and pray, right? Unfortunately, Jeff is able to now take a look at Negative's hand and see how bad it is. He elects to actually shuffle back the Sulliek. Now you might be wondering, why not shuffle back one of the cards that are actually going to do something on turn 2? And the reason for that is because, as I mentioned earlier, all 3 of these cards are effectively just a normal summon. If you hit back one, you just normal summon the other one. And while Fallen of Albaz is certainly a very threatening normal summon, if you can see it coming, it's not as threatening anymore. So, by hitting back the Sulliek, Jeff has essentially condensed Negative's hand down to just 1 card, 1 normal summon and pray. Here, Jeff elects to activate the Miller effect. Even though it is going to give some mills to Negative, it will also trigger Jeff's Agito from hand, which will allow him to spam the board with level 4s. So in this case, we show off the power once again of Agito's effect from hand. Jeff was able to chain it to Negative's Shuffler to pull out his own Mudora from his graveyard. So now it's almost as if Negative's Shuffler didn't accomplish nothing at all. And taking a look at Jeff's current board, I only have one thing to say. Shockmaster would go so hard here. Making Trident will allow Jeff to pop the Rhino Heart, reborn it, get the Sulliek out of his hand, and search a Siren, which will allow Jeff to continue playing. With the mills, both Kit Kalos and Kaleidoheart can be made. Kaleidoheart is excellent when you already have Planet up, because Planet can pop the Kaleidoheart, and then Kaleidoheart can send the card to the graveyard to get you an additional search/fusion. Here, Jeff is able to send Crime from his deck to add back the banished Rhinoheart. This ensures that he has follow-up for next turn. The Sulliek and Shuffler on field, as well as Trident, ensure that he is set to interrupt Negative's only play, which, unless he top decks a Siren, will be only a normal summon. And here we show once again that you do not need Dweller to win the mirror. What you need to win the mirror is establishing efficient interruptions, playing through interruptions yourself, and most importantly, making sure that you have follow-up for your following turn. So how about that Shockmaster, huh? It can come back to 1. Well, I hope that you enjoyed the replays. I hope that you saw the power of Mothman, as well as an example of how Team Roarkallos chooses to play their turn 1. And I hope that you learned a lesson in playing patiently in tournaments. Sometimes you don't want to jump the gun, but sometimes you do have to. With all that being said, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to check out my social media links down below and check out my Twitch streams over at twitch.tv/Roarkallos. So thank you again, and bye-bye.